Another groundbreaking episode of the Know Your Pharmacist Livestream. I'm your host, Dr. Joaquin Acosta, CEO of PharmTrue, and today we're diving into another world of wonder, curiosity, and innovation that will be sure to leave you inspired and enlightened. You ready to explore a mysterious connection between ketamine and neuroplasticity? Curious about the science between major cannabinoids without the, other parts? Eager to master the art of focus and understand what it may mean to become indistractable. Well, guys, buckle up because we're about to embark on a thrilling journey through the latest advancements in healthcare, mental focus, community involvement, and men's health, guys. So, again, from the cutting edge technology of the Dechoker's airway clearing devices that we're going to be talking about today to the empowering community support for the Centennial High School cheerleading squad here. We've got a show packed with insights, discoveries, and surprises. Men, listen up. We've also got some groundbreaking solutions for you guys that we are going to talk about. Considering the latest FDA approval in over-the-counter medications here for, you already heard, erectile dysfunction. And let's not forget to thank our incredible show sponsors. Guys, can't do it without you. PharmTrue, High Horse, the Trichome Alliance, and Vado Speedway Park. So, guys, get your favorite beverage going. I know it's a little bit earlier today, but you already know. Let's get settled in for a high-octane adventure here with me, guys. We're going to go over the secrets, the science, and the stories that, shape our world. Okay, cool. Don't forget, if you're enjoying the show and you find any sort of value, please hit the like, hit the share button, guys. It means a lot, to go ahead and engage with that digitally. And be sure to, tune in and be ready for a legendary show, guys. Let's check this thing out. First, starting off, ketamine. What does ketamine do? It's the buzzword lately in the health community to some degree, correct? Let's talk about that. So, right now where your alternative research that is looking a lot about your fungi, right? Your mushrooms. Well, we're not going to talk about that one today. We'll cover that another time because, there's different stuff that is available for all sorts of, recreational or off-label use of, drugs, correct? So let's talk about ketamine. What does it actually do to your brain? So again, ketamine, local anesthetic that has also become a club drug, right? This club drug has now, showed some sort of potential in, being the quote unquote miracle cure for treatment resistant depression. And, what does that mean? Is that really a real thing? Well, let's kind of talk about it a little bit and see, what that means, because neuroplasticity is something that is changed and supposedly, repaired by the use of ketamine. And we will kind of go over that a little bit and check out the treatments of why you might see people talking about ketamine online, or why do you see, why is this being talked about when you hear the typical ketamine effects of, right, K-hole. Have you guys ever heard of that? So the definition of a K-hole is from the effects of ketamine, which is considered disassociation, like a intense, disassociation from reality. And that's part of that extreme use from the drug, and probably for a lot of great reasons why, ketamine is still such a research project right now. And, there's a lot of things to be bullish on in terms of, I think people like to see that the party drug may be having some of these other potential uses, but what are the, long-term uses, of ketamine, right? Where does it really start to affect the brain and things like that? Where is it being marketed? Let's talk a little bit about that. So ketamine is being marketed in low-dose ketamine therapy as a replacement for SSRIs. SSRIs have the bad rap everywhere right now, and that's just the nature of how, it has become. The SSRIs do have a lot of side effects, guys, right? From, weight gain, weight loss changes to potentially, um, changes in sexual desire and sexual function, right? So really the SSRIs have gotten a really bad rep over time now, and people are pulling back on them. And as they pull back on them, people also look for, well, how do you replace this or whatever, right? And one of the big ones that you will see marketed against SSRIs is going to be ketamine. So again, let's talk about the kind of more recent research in regards to ketamine and neuroplasticity and where this, buzz really became a thing, right? So basically, apparently ketamine changes the depressed person's brain. And the FDA, had approved a depression-based treatment with, ketamine. And what does that mean? It's a psychiatric drug that hasn't been out for, has been out for 30 plus years, but now it's kind of being touted as, hey, well, there's some different use here. So let's look at this. It's a drug called Spravato, and basically it's the esketamine is the form, right? And it's a nasal spray medication for treatment-resistant depression, correct? And the boxed warning on the drug cautions patients, people are at risk for sedation, difficulty with attention, judgment, thinking, dissociation, abuse, misuse, suicidal thoughts or behaviors, right? It's not only that, it's a REMS drug as well. So, that's the kind of clinical FDA approved version of, right, ketamine to that degree. They've got another injectable ketamine called, Katalar. It's the brand name, the injection. So really what we're getting at here is, let's talk about the science of neuroplasticity, right? How can, a drug that has been known as not only a party drug, but truly an anesthetic, to come and alleviate depression, how does it do that in quote unquote a matter of hours? So, the studies have shown over time that ketamine works for people who have failed to respond to multitudes of other treatments. And the complete mechanism of action as to the repair of neuroplasticity is quite unknown. And really what the studies are trying to say here is, right, like this is a mice study back in 2019, and this one shows, ketamine first induces changes in brain circuit function, improving depressed mice's behavior within 3 hours, only later stimulating regrowth of synapses. So they were actually able to get that visual on the brain changes after the use of ketamine, which is why researchers were like, hey, this could be better than whatever's already out there. And right, we've got SSRIs, you've got, your monoamine neurotransmitter drugs. And guys, with those ones, you have a high risk for things like serotonin syndrome. So things here to take in. Is ketamine a cure for depression? No. Do we have a lot of research on it? Not a lot. So again, what are the drawbacks, right? Its drawbacks are its side effects. So, people who do want to experience taking ketamine to have the complete disassociation effect, which is, right, considered the K-hole, right? That is an addictive effect. And really it can cause, relapse over time. And so the high dose or even, higher dose of ketamine where you are getting those dissociated side effects, they do wear off after months. So it's not where the neuroplasticity is, fully understood to connecting for any amount of time. So you've basically, right, the question now in the field, what are the mechanisms that mediate the transitions between depression states over time? Right? How does ketamine work there? So they don't really have a grip on that. And it's just worth to know, like there are some people that are really quite bullish about the ketamine thing right now. And, looking at where it's activating in the brain and, I'm going to show you guys right here on, Instagram, but I'm going to show you guys on Facebook here and just a couple quick, pictures that are kind of useful to show. So again, according to research, ketamine reestablishes and strengthens neural connections via dendrites. And where it has its effect is the NMDA receptor, right? It's a little gate on the neuron's surface that can open and close. So ketamine blocks this gate, preventing signal from passing through it, which results in bursts of increases in glutamate levels in the brain. And the bursts are correlated with disassociated, states that ketamine produces. So again, you are looking at what ketamine is capable of, where people are really going to try to call neuroplasticity and how can it be used to treat depression. Well, the entire mechanisms by which, ketamine treats depression is truly not quite out to any knowledge. We know that more glutamate gets built up in the brain. And it can maybe repair some dendrites and some neuron growth, but really where, the effects there are not quite fully understood. So they talk about an ego death when you're on a high dose of ketamine. What does that really mean? So that's your cerebral cortex. That's where most of the executive function in the brain and sense of self is processed. So the cerebral cortex during, high doses of ketamine is actually having, greatly reduced activity. So of course that experience in the mind is happening, but don't think I'm quite bullish on it quite yet, guys. And that's just my recommendation right now. So, some providers do prescribe it. You can find online ketamine clinics here in New Mexico. But, the data for this anesthetic to, cure depression entirely is not quite supportive of it yet. And where it's being, administered in clinics and stuff, it's a little bit off label. So just all things to keep in mind. Again, cool. So guys, that segment was our Pharmacist Frontline segment, guys, brought to you guys by PharmTrue. PharmTrue is more than just a pharmacy. It's a beacon of innovation and quality, providing pharmacist-formulated cannabis products since 2019. With a commitment to education and trusted, safe, well-designed solutions, PharmTrue is empowering wellness through community-driven healthcare. Join them in their journey towards a healthier future backed by science and nature. Visit PharmTrue's website and be a part of the revolutionary movement today. Cool. So jumping into the next segment of the show, guys, talking about Tech Talk. An interesting little device here. It's called a Dechoker. So, this isn't quite technology that is, electrical by any means, but the mechanical technology here is pretty interesting. And, people that may or may not be trained on the Heimlich maneuver and stuff like this sort of emergency thing is some technology in healthcare that I think is is pretty cool. So I'm going to share that with you guys here. Nope, not that page. Sorry to my IG page, guys, that you don't get the cool stuff, but all right. So this thing is pretty cool. Dechoker device.
You failed using back blows and abdominal thrusts. Let's use the Dechoker. Tilt the head back just a little bit, make sure the mouth is open. Insert the tongue depressor portion of the Dechoker over the tongue. Get a tight seal over both the nose and mouth. Tilt the chin up. Form a tight seal between your thumb and 2 fingers. And pull back on the Dechoker.
So yeah, anyways, that's, I mean, generally the mechanism of the Dechoker, but, you know, this was a device that actually came, you know, through and noticed on just straight up ads. And I thought this was a pretty interesting new piece of technology that's out there, because from one side, on the pharmacy side, we do talk about, right, does somebody know how to, hey, take their inhaler? Does somebody know how to, right, properly use a maintenance inhaler versus a rescue inhaler? Sure, maybe they do or they don't. But also, hey, what do you do if you choke, right? What do you do if that's a thing? So as most healthcare providers ought to be CPR certified, just sit back and think about that. If you actually really get into that situation of having to administer CPR, maybe because you were certified, you have the confidence to be able to administer it, but it doesn't always mean you're going to do a great job. So looking at a Dechoker and a Dechoker protocol, I think it's a pretty cool situation there, because, right, you can literally just, you know, clear the airway with a device that's supporting you versus the other way around. So showing you guys here, granted, this is just like their poster, but pretty cool. And that's how it's, you know, administered. It's got the tongue depressor there to help, you know, clear the airway even more. Very supportive little unit. And I thought it was pretty neat. Again, this is pretty much this dechoker.com device on their website, but interesting. You know, choking, again, a leading cause of death for children. You know, stats prove that that help will not get to you in time. So every second counts, right? So in those regards where you do have, hey, you know, people that are trained for CPR, where can you take it up another notch and, hey, save some lives and, you know, use this little machine to even help you even more. So that's Tech Talk, guys. Pretty cool, huh? Moving on to the next segment of the show, we are talking Enlightenment Hour. So talking about mastering focus, and what exactly does that mean in a world that we live in now, guys? Does it sound like we all live with a whole bunch of distractions all the time? Absolutely so. Right? And what could we possibly do to, you know, help with these things? Well, it takes the awareness first and foremost. And I want to share with you guys a video here about, you know, becoming focused, right? So that's what this guy's masterclass kind of situation is the sale of. However, this is not what I'm saying, go buy this guy's masterclass. It's just that it's an important take into, you know, how to eliminate distractions and why or why not it could be important, even when, you know, there's a lot of different ways that people build their reasoning and rationale behind that. However, it's, you know, it's worth taking a second eye view on that. So I'm going to share my screen. And then, yup. IG, you guys are getting this, so I can make sure that you see it too. flipped. All right, so I'm gonna just press play.
Hi, I'm Nir Eyal. You know, I love sweets. I love social media, and I love watching YouTube. But as much as I love these things, they don't love me back. A scroll of the news feed, a sweet snack after a meal, or a video binge after work are all things that we do with little or no conscious thought. We do them out of habit. Here's a perfect example of how I let bad habits take hold in my own life. My daughter is an only child, and to my wife and I at least, she is the most amazing kid in the world. One day, a few years ago, when she was just 5 years old, the two of us were playing games from a Daddy and Me book. We turned to a page and answered questions designed to bring dads and daughters closer together. The first activity involved naming each other's favorite things. The next activity was to build a paper airplane with one of the pages. And the third activity was to answer this question. The question was, if you could have any superpower, what would it be? There are so many great choices here, especially if you're a kid. You know, would you fly like Superman or have superhuman strength like the Incredible Hulk? Would you carry a lasso of truth like Wonder Woman or shoot webs from your wrist like Spider-Man? No doubt my daughter's answer to this question would have given me some great insights into who she was and what she cared about at that moment. Which is why I wish I could tell you what she said. But I can't. I don't know because I wasn't listening. I was physically in the room, but I wasn't really present. Not only did I miss her answer, I failed to answer myself because when she asked me, Daddy, what would be your superpower? I wasn't paying attention. Instead, I grunted and I said, huh? As I was looking down at my phone. I told her, just a sec, hon, I just need to respond to this one thing on my phone. And I missed paying attention to her because I was scrolling something on my phone or checking an email, who knows what. She waited because Daddy was distracted. She went quiet and she found something else to do. My eyes were still glued to my screen, tapping away at something that seemed important at the moment, but certainly could have waited. I know she left the room, but I didn't see her walk out. I had just blown this magical moment with my kid because of some stupid thing on the internet that had grabbed my attention. If this was an isolated incident, maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal. I mean, everybody has their moments, but it wasn't. This same scene has played out countless times in my family and maybe in yours too. I'd gotten into the habit of prioritizing distractions, particularly the digital kind, over people I loved. I became a jerk, a distracted jerk. In the wake of this unsettling realization, I decided that I had to do something. I tried digital detoxes and digital minimalism, and I thought that the problem was technology. So I got myself a feature phone, you know, the kind of clunky device that we used to use 20 years ago, the thing that, you know, we used to use before smartphones so that I wouldn't get tempted to use email and Facebook and Twitter. And in an attempt to stay focused while I was writing, I bought this 1990s word processor on eBay without any internet connection so I could do focused work while I was writing. So these efforts produced some strange results, not the ones that I had intended. Without apps on my phone, I found that without a GPS, I had trouble getting from place to place. And without addresses on my calendar app, I would miss appointments. I also missed having audiobooks that I could listen to while I walked, as well as other handy things that my smartphone could do. I also discovered that whenever I sat down to write at my word processor without an internet connection, I'd still find myself getting distracted. I would look at the bookcase behind me and I would say, oh, maybe I should read that book that might be related to what I was working on. Maybe I'd take out the trash or do the laundry. The point is here, I kept getting distracted, even though I thought that technology was the source of the problem. Not only did I find it exceedingly inefficient to not use these technologies, but I learned that even without the internet and my beloved devices, I was totally capable of replacing one distraction for another. And that's when I realized that the problem of distraction has just as much to do with us as it has to do with the distractions in our environment. We are what we pay attention to. And if you care about your work, your family, your relationships, and your own physical and mental well-being, you have to learn what I had to learn, the essential skill of our century, how to become indistractable.
Right, so pretty interesting there. Like, if you could have one superpower, what would it be? And where someone does see, hey, is a lack of focus considered a superpower, correct? And which makes complete sense that you could astute it to that, because you could lose, right? Precious moments to any degree at all there. And get that back. So I think to kind of the conversation that I was looking for here is looking about distractions and becoming indistractable to those degrees. Yes, if you were able to actually completely 100% focus on something, you would probably be able to, attain whatever it is that you put your focus to. So in a world where we face distractions, consider what that might be. To look at a superpower that we may not always think about is, not to be distracted, and you could actually achieve things along the path that you put your mind to. So again, where do you kind of maybe consider that, moments are, you are what you pay attention to, so you thus become, where that is. So can you influence and reposition the things that you do pay attention to versus not? Absolutely. And it's a great thing here for our Enlightenment Hour to kind of just peel back on that and just take a triple thought about, hey, well, look, I think being indistractable is just part of the human, or being distracted and being able to be distracted is part of the human condition. This is nothing we have to really blame our technology on, right? The human condition creates technology to become more distracting because we thus want to be distracted. So really, at the end of the day, what you're seeing there is, the ability to focus is a unique, powerful human ability that doesn't always get appreciated how it should, get embraced how it should. So can you master, focus? Can you master distractions? And what would that actually really look like for you? Think about it. It's your homework tonight. If you hear that, think about what would life be like for me if I wasn't distracted by things. Interesting. So cool. Moving on, guys, to our herbal wellness corner here. I'm pulling up something I want to share with y'all. I'm going to go through this here pretty quick. Bum, bum. So this is what I got here is, just want to show you guys a little bit of studies here on cannabinoids from a presentation. I thought it was pretty cool. So, sorry for the delay. Here it comes. Cool. So let's look at this. So we're looking at a little bit of cannabis here, and this was a presentation that we had been a part of back when I was in the serving on the board of directors for the International Society of Cannabis Pharmacists, and this was a cool presentation. I kind of wanted to show you guys a little bit of stuff here. So some interesting things, basically looking at, what are phytocannabinoids? How are they formed, right? Where does this all come from? So we are, I want to show you guys a little bit of data here talking about, hey, what does this actually mean? What are the effects of the roles of the phytocannabinoids in humans, right? So where you look at phytocannabinoids, it's, THC, THCV, CBD, CBG, correct? And I guess, guys, before I get move any farther on this one, this segment, your Herbal Wellness Corner, brought to you guys by High Horse Cannabis, High Horse Cannabis Company, the daring pioneers redefining the future of the cannabis history. sponsoring the Herbal Wellness Corner. High Horse is committed to changing the narrative around cannabis, promoting a positive and healthy lifestyle with integrity, commitment, passion. They cultivate a one-of-a-kind experience, providing quality products and reducing stigmas, determined to write history, not just read about it. So very interesting stuff here, looking at, right, our body, as you've heard me talk about plenty of times, I'm sure at this point, creates an anandamide, 2-arachno-glycerol, which is, CBD and THC to those degrees in your own body. So where does, this all get synthesized from? Well, if you guys have ever heard that CBG is the mother molecule, well, CBGA breaks down into not only delta-9 THC-A, but CBD and CBC. So that is its own, situation. What does decarboxylating mean with cannabis? Well, cannabis, you take off, the acidic portion once it heats, and then that THCA becomes THC. So you're looking at those percentages on the label. Correct, it does count for something. Well, guys, this is one of the things I wanted to show you about THC degrading into CBN. So where you do, look at CBN as something that you might pay more for to go to sleep. Hey, CBN actually is a, byproduct of THC, right? It's basically trash. And to that degree, the science doesn't back CBN as a sleeping component. And I think my viewers, I would just want to, console you that, hey, it's really, really not worth paying a lot of money for CBN, especially you're always going to see CBN mixed with melatonin or a heavy dose of CBD, right? So standalone CBN is not what it says it is. Some important things I want to show you guys here is, dosing in the real world does become, problematic, because why? Right? You can't see that different parts of the plant when you're actually trying to dose cannabis can have different percents of THC. Even when they test batches of it, they don't test, right? It's a portion of the batch, but it's not exactly going to be every single last gram is going to get tested. So it's not necessarily something that you can guaranteed ensure accuracy on in the industry, right? So what happens there, you never really know where that THC percent is. And, some phenotypes, as you go to, the genetic information, the big dictionary there, like leafly.com is already going to tell you, hey, well, this strain should have this much percent. No, it does have quite amount of variability. And something else I wanted to bring in mind here too is, looking at the different numbers here. So skewed distributions between THC products in labs can be very, different. So lab testing can even show, different numbers. And so looking at the oral dosing and an actual chart, guys, when you're doing an inhaled, you're going to be right here in this middle curve. When you're doing, granted, cannabis is never really infused, but if you're going to do IV there, boom, there's that. But really within the first, 10 to 15 minutes, you're going to have your peak dose. When you take an edible, you don't even have your peak dose until like the, third hour. So that's other things to keep in mind. What also causes variability in how things get distributed, right? Well, the bioavailability of THC is 2.8% higher with a high-fat meal. So you're getting about three times more THC, absorbed if you're taking an edible and you take it with a high-fat meal. So are you going to waste money by not taking it with a high-fat meal? Absolutely, because if you're buying THC or any cannabinoid to consume, then you would ideally want to take full advantage of that. So where do you find, the highest variability in products, guys? In a 2018 sales data 44% of candy products had the most variability. So if it said it was 10 milligrams of this, may have varied, right? So candy products can be more potent than they say they are on the label, or they can be less. And this isn't to suggest don't buy candy products. It's just to know and keep that in mind, right? For sure. So gonna give you guys a couple more slides that I thought were pretty cool. So again, looking at a visual slide here about CB1 receptor and what it mediates versus the CB2 receptor. As you guys see, CB2 receptor high key mediates inflammation. CB1 receptor is going to be mediating psychoactivity, muscle spasticity, sleep, nausea, appetite, pain. So how does THC work, right? You can just read the real geeky stuff. Partial agonist of the CB1 and 2 receptors. The activity there is going to be a little bit different and less on this, that receptor. THC in the spine reduces unpleasantness of pain in the brain and suppressive nociceptive processing in the spine. So again, that's where the recommendation of THC for spine and everything just really, really becomes a big deal. Couple more things. Acute THC use does increase dopamine, but long-term THC use decreases dopamine. So where you can see that is you can have THC dopamine resets, exercise and some of these other things to help reset that can help. But that's where the, use disorder kind of comes in, acute side effects versus chronic. And we kind of talked about it a little bit this week, but that's, just kind of more of the educational side that I wanted to show you guys to continue to keep those conversations going. Moving on to the next segment, guys. We're about to be jumping on the Nevada Speedway Park podcast pretty soon too, so that's going to be incredibly exciting. I'm looking at, check this out. So Centennial Cheer here in Las Cruces, there is a cheer team for Centennial High School, and they actually have Papa John supporting them tonight, and they're going to do 20% of people's order go to supporting the cheer team there. So this is pretty cool. I don't see this a lot from local businesses. I think this is a good idea. I hope our local businesses can cherry pick off the big box here. But again, you can support the local, Centennial High School cheerleading team by just purchasing a pizza at Papa John's, code 2059 PN. P is in Paul, N is in Nancy. So, you put that in, you get to support a local community group and, all that. So that's very cool. Again, shout out to Papa John's on that. I mean, I think our local businesses can do much better, guaranteed. And, our local businesses do a ton for the community already. I just thought that was a pretty clever thing. Cool. So last thing I want to talk about here, guys, in Men's Health Minute, going to be talking about this approved in June, but an OTC gel. So it's called Theroxon. It's a stim gel that was basically approved by the FDA back in June for, erectile dysfunction. Considers itself drug-free. It's already marketed out in the UK, and that's where, the Med 3000 gel has already shown that it's, helping men with erectile dysfunction. Obviously something men don't need to be embarrassed about, but just looking at the idea of the fact that that is a FDA approved over-the-counter use, hey, well, wow, what does that even mean? When is it going to be here in the United States? Yada, yada. So you haven't seen a whole lot of hype on it because it may not even have a release up until 2025, guys. So it's a topical therapy called, again, Theroxon, and it's a stim gel. Onset of action is supposed to be in 10 minutes. Let me show you guys here watching on the YouTube, Facebook, and stuff page the box, just so you can kind of take a look. But people always get curious about some of these new things that you may see advertisements on and stuff. And, it's worth being aware that, hey, well, cool, interesting. This is it. Stimulates nerve endings in the penis to increase blood flow. And you don't have to buy, right, Cialis or behind the counter and get prescriptions and stuff like this. So again, gel called Theroxon, fast acting, minimal sides, helps users in 10 minutes. When you actually look at the, reviews online, it's actually only currently has like 2 stars out of 5 where they're using it overseas. So it's not getting the best reps yet. Curious to kind of see what it becomes of it. And we'll basically find out later. But, we probably won't see it here in our neck of the woods until about 2025, guys. But interesting enough. And, erectile dysfunction is a thing that men have, especially 40 and above, and definitely worth talking to doctors about and not being embarrassed about. So that's my spiel on the Men's Health Minute today, guys, brought to you all by Vado Speedway Park. Feel the rush of adrenaline with thrilling races and join me, your color commentator at Vado Speedway Park this weekend, guys. And actually here in about half an hour, we will be getting live here, Scott Brothers Racing Facility, with Jacob Darthy, winner from this last weekend. I'm excited to talk about all that too. So peace. We'll see you guys. Gotta move.